What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sunday night recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my beautiful co-hosts, Josh and John Luke. What's up,
What
boys?
up? How's it going?
We're just chilling. We got some great games.
Good football.
Guys, the Chiefs just scored a touchdown.
I know.
I saw
just
that.
saw it right there.
Yeah.
Guys,
tied it up.
this is
7-7. Let's go.
This is uncharted territory. We're all going to be watching this game from the beginning with you guys as we are recapping the other games from this weekend so far. But man, do we have a lot to talk about. This has been an unreal divisional round of the playoff. I'm having a hard time remembering a better weekend of playoff football than this. Like, I can think of individual games that were better, but this consistent 3 walk-off field goals, 3 lower seeded teams winning, the away teams winning all 3 games, just unreal. And each game had like its own little things that made it more fun, made it different. I'm just like, I'm smiling. I'm cheesing so hard. My girlfriend was taking a nap and I busted in like 4 or 5 times, like, and the Rams just turned the ball over. Oh, and now the Buccaneers.
You gotta wake up.
And she was being so nice, just putting up with me, pretending like she cared about it. But like, I was just so excited. I had to share it with somebody. This has been so much fun this weekend.
That's hilarious.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Like, the game, the Rams Buccaneers game was freaking nuts. No one thought the Buccaneers were going to be able to come. No, stop. Timeout. People thought it was possible. The Buccaneers have Tom Brady, so it's always possible when you have Tom Brady. But they almost won the game. I thought they were going to win for sure. And then
me too.
The Green Bay San Francisco game, the snowy game, a blocked punt for a touchdown, a blocked field goal, and then the Cincinnati game, Joe Burrow sacked 9 times. The first ever quarterback to be sacked 9 times and win a playoff game. There was the crazy games all throughout. And now we have the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs playing right now. They're tied 7-7.
They've already both scored touchdowns early in the game. Hopefully this continues. We get a high-scoring shootout. I know that'll be a lot of fun. And we'll be friendly to all your overs out there. We love overs right here. So hopefully this game keeps up the pace that it's at right now. Guys, before we get started with our recap, a couple reminders for everybody watching. Number 1, if you have not done so already and you're watching this stream right now, that means you're already on the FanDuel YouTube or Twitch channels. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button on this video and subscribe to FanDuel. They're on YouTube at FanDuel. And if you're on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button. They're at FanDuel on Twitch as well. Then after you do that, if you enjoy what you're watching here, make sure you follow FanDuel across all of their socials. They're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter as well, at FanDuel. And they have a whole team of awesome content creators helping you guys win some money and win your leagues. So make sure you guys are following all of those places. And 2, guys, before we start talking about the Bengals-Titans game, this game's going on right now. It's tied 7-7, even playing field now. So we can make our predictions almost as if it's 0-0. I want to know who you guys think is going to win this Chiefs-Bills game and what the final score is going to be. So, Josh, we'll come to you first. Who do you think the winner is going to be, and what do you think the final score of this game is going to be?
So we already have a little information, like you said, 7-7. Like, going into this game, I actually had something written down. I said, I think the Chiefs win this game in a close one. I think they win 28-27, and I think that's still very much in play. So I still feel very confident about that one. So I think the Chiefs pull this one out.
Chiefs pull this one out. JL, what about you?
I think I said, I could be wrong. I could be mixing up my games. I have a terrible memory. But I think that I said 31-28 Chiefs, and I'll stick with that as well.
Sounds good to me. I like it.
Man,
just so everyone knows, the Chiefs came into this game as 2.5-point favorites, and it's a 54-point over-under, so they expect a lot of scoring in this game.
They're now 1.5-point favorites.
Okay.
I desperately want this game to be a super high scoring affair. So I'm going to make my prediction just wishful thinking. Ridiculous. This is going to be a ridiculous game. We're going to see touchdowns all over the place. The fourth quarter is going to have 3 touchdowns alone.
86-80.
I'm going to say 45-42 Chiefs. Another walk-off field goal to win the game. We're going to see 80+ points scored. I don't actually think that. It's just hopeful thinking. But I think the Chiefs win this game. And I think it's going to be close, Josh.
But it's good that you took enough time to like say that, because we could still clip that first part. And if it ends up playing out like that, it looks really cool.
Yeah, totally out of context.
Completely out of context, 100% right. No, I desperately want this to be a crazy high scoring game. But I'm with you, Josh. I think the Chiefs pull this one out in a very, very close game.
Let's go.
So It'll be the first
Chiefs.
favorite to win, right? The Chiefs are the home team here, so we'll have our
One
first favorite of the
favorite's got to
weekend
win, right? One of them's got to win here.
Somebody's got to win. Guys, we are going to talk about the Bengals-Titans game first. But before we do that, we got some people in the chat here saying hello. What's up, Maria? Glad to have you here.
Maria.
And Parker's in here saying, where is Jay?
We are is Jay.
We kicked him out of here.
We are all
get out of here, Jay. No, I'm joking.
Get gone.
He'll be back soon. You know,
He's busy.
He misses you guys. He misses everyone.
I believe he's on a deep sea expedition with James Cameron right now, helping do some research for his next film. I think he did that before.
Oh,
I think that
know
was
why Jay's
Josh did
not
that
here.
last
I'm
time,
looking
right?
at my board right now, and Jay owes a
He
horse
lost?
bet.
It's all coming together.
He lost to all three of us. He has to make an animal noise.
What was the bet?
It was the Chiefs Steelers. Chiefs minus 12.5.
Yep. That checks out.
Yep. And Jay was the only one that took the Steelers on that one.
Well, like an
Jay,
idiot, and he's not
we're
here.
Watching you. We're watching you, bro. I know he's in the chat, just like, oh, look. He's in the...
On cue. Okay, Jay, that doesn't count. That doesn't count as your horse
count.
noise. Maria also wanted to know Bills or Cheese.
At some point, Jay.
Autocorrect, but I want to keep it. So we already decided Bills or Chiefs.
Bills
Josh,
or cheese.
Bills or cheese? What do you think?
I like that.
I think, the cheese. Give me the cheese all day here.
You know, the Bills have never ruined my day, but cheese has. I'll give it to cheese here.
Cheese ruins every one of your days, but you also love it. So,
I love it so much.
I feel like Josh Allen could just run circles around cheese. So I'll take the Bills.
You'll take the Bills. You know what? Cheese has never ruined my day. Cheese usually ruins my night. It makes my day and then ruins my night. And this is a night game. That changes your answer? This is a night game, so I will go with the cheese still. If this was the early game, I would have gone with the Bills. Parker, you're saying, oh, never mind. By the way, Simon didn't fall. Thank you. This time.
We said don't fall.
Of course.
Oh, Simon, don't fall.
Don't fall this time.
That's true.
Man, I watch that every time I'm sad.
That's why I've got the beanie on instead of the baseball cap.
It's a hard
go
beanie.
all over the place. Yeah, it doesn't fly off my head as easily, and the hat's falling off is what gets it. What's up, Sean? Welcome in. He said, what's up, everyone?
Sean?
Front Yard Fantasy for life. We appreciate it. Oh, I think my mic just got extra loud.
No, of course not.
And
Josh, one day we have to do that, and when his mic doesn't get super loud, and just trick him.
I think it would work.
Oh, that'll be so funny. I'll really get got by that one. Albert in here with his own predictions says Bills 38-35. Jason,
not quite as crazy as Simon's, but pretty close.
Still pretty high. James Cameron says, what's up? Well, tell him to hurry up with Avatar 2. We've been waiting like 11 years. It's a little bit ridiculous
really what we're
at
waiting
this point.
For.
Come here now, Beach 89. I'm so glad to hear that your lip has stopped bleeding. I know that was a big problem earlier in the week. Jail Garofalo in Remember the Time.
I thought they were saying that they were Tom Brady. I thought this was a Tom Brady reference.
But Come Here Now, Beach 89 came into our stream earlier this week and said that his mouth was bleeding just out of nowhere. We recommended a visit to the dentist, but it looks like he figured it out on his own. I think maybe it was on Friday right there. Kev, what's up? Welcome in. Bird up indeed.
Kev.
Are there any bird teams left, or are all the bird teams gone? All the bird teams are gone, right?
Bird teams are
down.
They're dead. Yeah, bird down.
Are 49ers birds?
There were no bird teams in the divisional round games at all.
Right.
Period. Yeah.
Were the Eagles the only bird team to even make it to? No, Cardinals and Eagles both made it, and then lost their respective games, and the Birds are dead. Guys, we're going to go ahead and jump into our first game for today. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals beating the Tennessee Titans 19-16. Our first of 3 walk-off field goals.
This game was crazy, too. I mean, Evan McPherson, the Bengals rookie kicker, hit a 52-yard field goal as time expired to win this game. It was awesome. He's a really good kicker, guys. And
he hasn't missed a kick on the road. Period. That's what they said. Like, I was sitting there going, like, they're jinxing him. Like,
they're trying to
shut up. Can they shut up about McPherson? Because, like, as he's going the kick, they're like, he hasn't missed one on the road all season. Rookie kicker, 22 years old. Can you believe every kick he's made? And then Josh, he nails it.
He nailed it, man. And Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times. Like I said earlier, that was the first time a quarterback has ever been sacked 9 times and won a playoff game. And honestly, I was watching this game and there was pressure on both sides of the ball, but I was like, it's going to be tough for the Bengals to win this one. But they found a way. They knew coming into this game that stopping Derrick Henry was going to be the key to their victory. And I think that's kind of what they did here. Derrick Henry had 20 carries. a lot of carries, 62 yards, 1 touchdown, the touchdown, whatever, but only 62 yards. I feel like they limited him
Derrick
pretty well.
Henry. Yeah, that's a tame Derrick Henry game.
And I'm
Absolutely.
I think Come Here Now Beach 89 hits on one of the points here. They did bottle up Derrick Henry, and he says Titans much better team. Tannehill cost them the game. So that it wasn't on Derrick Henry. The game plan was to get Derrick Henry going. They said they were going to get him 20 carries, and they did. But the Bengals came ready to stop that game plan. I completely agree, Josh.
I don't know if the Bengals really like played super well in this game. I feel like both teams just played bad, and the Bengals just played slightly less bad. That
the defenses played very well. I think both defenses kind of deserved to win this game. They did what they needed to do Ryan Tannehill, he threw 3 touchdowns, sure, but he threw 1 touchdown, but 3 interceptions, 12 carries for 12 yards. The 3 carries for 12 yards. He did not have a good game. Both of the defenses played, like I already said, Joe Burrow had 9 sacks. So if I'm on the defense for the Tennessee Titans, I'm a little bit pissed after this game. But does this concern you at all going into next year for Derrick Henry? Him only getting 20 carries for 62 yards and 1 touchdown?
Only 20 carries? No.
I mean, he's 28 now. He's 28, but he was having a fantastic season before he got hurt. You're still fully confident in him next season, Simon?
I mean, his age is very concerning. You know, like that hasn't changed though. That doesn't change after this game. I'm not concerned about anything from that we saw from this game. He's coming off an injury. It's his first game back. The fact that they gave him 20 carries is makes me pretty optimistic. I think he'll be still very good in redraft formats next season.
I'm with you, JL. Full agree. Until Derrick Henry shows me like real signs that he's slowing down. This dude is a freak of nature and defies any other rule you have about like volume, workload, tread on the tires. Derrick Henry just breaks those rules. I'll be drafting him probably as a first-round running back next year if I'm drafting first-round running backs. FanDuel also in here saying birds are now extinct.
It's true.
Yep. Completely extinct. RIP all birds. And Albert wants to know, well, first Coming Out Beach 89 said, I thought Henry played decent. Yeah, especially first game back. It wasn't a bad game for him, especially when the Bengals. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. And Albert wants to know, where do you rank Henry next season? So for redraft purposes, how many running backs do you have?
I'm going to do it, guys. I'm going to surprise you guys with something here. I'm gonna share something. I created some tiers earlier this week. All right, these are my tiers that I put together. I have the elites, and I continue to put Derrick Henry in the top end tier here. Does anyone want to disagree with me? Does Derrick Henry not belong in the elites?
I think at the lowest he belongs down there with CMC, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara. But I'm with you, Josh. I would put him up there in the elites category. And honestly, I know this might sound crazy. There's one more player in that borderline elites that I think I might, or honestly two. CMC's a maybe, but the other player that I would consider moving up there with the way this Bengals offense has looked down the stretch, and assuming that their O-line gets better in the offseason, I think Joe Mixon might be in the conversation and move up a tier going into next season.
So you think possibly elite?
Yeah, I think there's a real argument to be made. Yeah. I think there's a real argument to be made that he moves up to the elite tier going into next season.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think really the concerns with Joe Mixon coming into this year were the injury concerns. Like he got hurt. He missed 10 games last season. So, and he's missed games here and there throughout his career. So I think a lot of people were concerned going into this season, but he finished as the 4th highest scoring running back in a PPR league. He had a fantastic season. He's paired with Joe Burrow in this elite offense. I'm probably going to have Joe Mixon on a lot of my fantasy teams going into next season.
Joe Mixon or Derrick Henry, though, it sounds like you're still taking Derrick Henry over Joe Mixon.
I'm absolutely going to draft Derrick Henry above Joe Mixon. But having said that, the value you're going to get Joe Mixon at, I don't know. I think I'd rather have Joe Mixon in the mid second than Derrick Henry in the top of the first.
1,000%. Yeah, if that's where they end up being drafted, I'm with you 100% because I think end of season output likely could be similar. Derrick Henry's going to get the volume. He's a volume king. The Tennessee Titans want to run through him. But I do think this Bengals offense is going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They've got a young core. They're only going to get better. And this year we knew a weakness was that offensive line. And I can only assume that's going to be the primary thing they try to address this offseason because the defense even played pretty well down the stretch. So Joe Mixon's on that borderline. The borderline elite is a perfect tier for him to be in right now, but keep him on watch. Keep him on tier watch because I think there's a good chance he moves up. JL, you agree with Derrick Henry up there in the elites, though?
Yeah, for next season, I'd have him up there. I know this isn't the ranking show. Yeah, I could not put. I don't know if I could put him above CMC. I think I would put CMC above Derrick Henry, and certainly above Austin Eckler in this, given these rankings. But I know this isn't what this is about.
Yeah, exactly. I know you love your CMC, JL. You're gonna have CMC in a lot of leagues next year.
Yeah, I consider both those guys elite. Yeah.
When I created this, JL, the toughest decision I had to make was, I think, CMC. Was Austin Eckler and CMC, just like that whole mix right there. Where do I break it off? Right. And when I looked into the numbers, Austin Eckler over 20 fantasy points per game, Jonathan Taylor over 20 fantasy points per game, Derrick Henry like close to 25 fantasy points per game, CMC 18 point something fantasy points per game, and in the last 2 seasons he's disappointed the hell out of people. So I think that's where the separation came in my mind, and the poor offense.
I think the difference between you and I is just where we see, like, is this injury something, or are these injuries something that's going to continue or not? Is he going to bounce back from that, or is he limited now? Is this like the new norm for him? And another player that Daddy FanDuel is bringing up here, I think, is perfect segue to this conversation. Is so does Zeke go up knowing that he played hurt basically all year? Healthy Zeke next year ranks where? So Josh, you have him in the RB2s here.
Mm-hmm.
I'd move him up to great starts. There's a couple names. I think there's 2 names in there that I would probably move up to the great starts category. And one of them, come here now, Beach 89, I'm just now seeing mentioned as well. Ezekiel Elliott and Cam Akers would both move up a tier for me.
Yeah, and to answer this question, he absolutely does move up. I'm gonna factor that into my rankings going into next season, because players who play through injuries like this, like a lot of times an offseason is gonna help them recover. And it's not something that's long-term. They're forced to play because of the seasonality of this league. They're forced to go in there and play at a subpar level. And I do think that Zeke and guys like CMC, like, they still have a lot of value to give. So in a redraft format, just considering next season, I'm still high on these guys.
Hell, and in dynasty formats, you might be able to get a discount right now. You know what I mean? If you're a win now team, you're missing one running back, this is probably the first year where it's reasonable to go trade for Christian McCaffrey. And Zeke, I think, like, compared to what his value was 2 seasons ago, you're going to be able to trade for Zeke like crazy. Like, I've seen some trades go through that are like Tony Pollard plus a second for Zeke. You know what I mean? People giving up on him, which is nuts. I saw that trade on Twitter this weekend. So I think Zeke is definitely a target, not just in redraft for next year, but in dynasty leagues as well. He's a value all around, probably.
And I'm completely fine if you wanted to put Zeke into the great starts category. I completely understand. There's just, other reasons why I separate those guys. I just think they have a little bit more unseen upside. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I don't think that it's unfair to take these injuries into account, or take these situations into account, take into account their age as well. There's a chance that they don't bounce back. And so, yeah.
I completely understand.
What were we talking about originally? I don't even remember.
Derrick Henry. I think we were talking about Derrick Henry and the Titans game here. So Derrick Henry, he had 20 carries for 62 yards, 1 touchdown. I don't think any of us are lowering our expectations for him next year. I think that's how this all segued into this tiers conversation, correct? So Derrick Henry, we're still confident about him next year. I think we all have Jonathan Taylor as our number 1 running back, but I think you can consider Derrick Henry as the next person off the board, just period. Not, wide receiver, tight end, whatever it is. Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. You could consider CMC, you consider Austin Eckler, maybe a wide receiver, but for me,
the fact that they didn't really give much work to anyone else as soon as Derrick Henry got back, when they were doing pretty well, like Deonta Foreman, he looked good in the past weeks, filling in for Derrick Henry, and they 4 attempts for 66 yards, which is a lot, but
I was going to say he looked great. He looked great in this game as well. He had 1 really good carry in this game, and they still
4
kept
attempts
going back
compared
to Henry.
20. Yeah,
he's got like a very similar hair does Derrick Henry has. So a couple times I was like, oh, Derrick Henry big. Oh, that's Foreman. Never mind.
I feel like in real life, Derrick Henry's like 3 times the size of every other player on the field.
Yeah. No. Also, I mean, Derrick Henry is so big.
Do you guys, with only 8 games played, you guys probably know this. Do you know where Derrick Henry ranks in terms of rushing yards on the season? Regular season. He only played
10.
in 8 games. Josh?
12.
Derrick Henry in terms of rushing yards?
Yep.
9.
9 exactly with 937 yards. He was the 9th
Yeah,
highest rushing yard total, and he played half as many games as most of these players, less than half as many as some of the guys at the top. With only
the rushing attempt, like they just
that's what I'm not worried about him.
Constantly. Yeah,
they're going to keep doing the same thing, so that's why I'm not worried about Derrick Henry.
20 carries, like we said. Now so Deontay Foreman, though, only 4 carries for 66 yards. He tore his Achilles a couple years ago, and a lot of people left him for dead. And I think both Cam Akers, who we'll get into we'll get into in a little bit. I think him and Foreman both proved that running backs can come back from this injury. It's not a running back killer. So I think that's just it's a good story. And I think Foreman is going to have a role with a team next season.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. He's looked very good. Cam Akers, I don't know. I know I'm not a doctor, but I know Cam Akers got like an experimental treatment for his Achilles. I don't know if Deontay Foreman got that same one, but that could be a big game changer for players who do tear their Achilles, like James Robinson going forward.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Sports medicine is wild, and it's getting crazier awesome. every year, right? We're watching these players have injuries that used to be career enders, like truly career enders. You never play another down in the NFL, and these guys are not only coming back, but coming back the same season from these injuries that would have previously ended their career. Absolutely nuts.
I completely agree. So I think the other biggest story from the Titans side of the ball, well, there's kind of two of them. It's the wide receivers. It's Julio Jones, who I think he maybe had one of his better looking games of the season. Just like you take his whole entire season so far, his whole entire tenure with the Titans, he just had one of his better games when they needed it the most, but still couldn't pull off the victory. But really, AJ Brown, the bigger thing here, he looked fantastic, and he looks like a dominant wide receiver. He's still very young. I know he has injury concerns, but I am so high on AJ Brown's future, and I kind of wanted to talk about AJ Brown from a dynasty context real fast. I know we have our Justin Jeffersons and Jamar Chases of the world who kind of separate themselves there in their own tier, but AJ Brown, I think he could be considered as the third wide receiver that you draft. If you're doing a dynasty startup today, the third wide receiver off the board right now could be AJ Brown. Do you think that's crazy?
I don't think it's crazy. He's not my third wide receiver, but it's not crazy. I actually have a couple guys ahead of him, and unfortunately, it's due to this offense. I know dynasty is a long-term game, but we're looking at 2 to 3 years, and I don't see this offense switching to a pass-first offense anytime in the near future. I'll take guys like CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, and Tyreek Hill over him in dynasty formats right now. I think all three of those guys I've got ahead of him. And there's a couple more names as well that AJ Brown is just about tied with, right? Like we're talking about the Terry McLaurins, DJ Moores. Those are the kind of names that I have. Cooper Kupp even have like in the same tier as AJ Brown, but the ones that are clearly ahead of him in my mind are CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, which according to this trade chart right here, apparently I'm right in line with public consensus on that.
So real fast, JL, what do you think about this? Do you think AJ Brown could be considered the third wide receiver off the board?
Absolutely. I think going into this season, I think AJ Brown was in the conversation for the top three, right? He was number one. Yeah. Again, I think that this is a situation where we see, AJ Brown got injured a lot. He just wasn't performing as much, and people just instantly take that and are like, all right, well, he's now done, or he's now, he's no longer what he was. And we see that's not the case. He came back, he played fantastic yesterday. Devontae Adams is the interesting part here. I feel like typically high on Devontae Adams compared to, among us three here. But
like from a dynasty perspective,
right? He's older than AJ Brown. Pretty much everyone here in that group there, that cluster. The thing that's interesting about Devontae Adams is he might not be in Green Bay, or they might franchise tag him, and Aaron Rodgers might not be there next season. And that uncertainty makes a big difference here. I think I would potentially take AJ Brown because of that uncertainty. It might just be enough to put him above Devontae Adams for me.
I am under the impression that, from my understanding, from what I've read, the Packers are going to have a hard time affording franchise tagging Devontae Adams. Like that's going to be a very expensive franchise tag for them. Even if the goal is to get him off the team, like they're going to have a hard time even doing that to trade him and fitting under the salary cap. So I think Devontae Adams is a free agent. And if Aaron Rodgers is being traded and Devontae Adams is a free agent, I'm under the assumption Like more likely than not that they're on the same team next year, whether it's the Packers or a different team. Like I think wherever Aaron Rodgers goes, Devontae Adams goes as well, because he'll likely be a free agent, not looking to be traded.
It does kind of feel like they're a package deal.
It does,
right?
I don't think Denver can bring in both of those guys
either. It would be weird
if they are a package deal, like we're saying. If they have to be together, then I don't think
Denver doesn't make sense. Vegas makes sense. Vegas makes a lot of sense. The Raiders, if they're moving on from Derek Carr, Rodgers and Adams, the Raiders.
It's going to depend on who they bring in.
Sense. My question is, like, what do they do first? Are they going to like make sure Aaron Rodgers is a locked-in deal before they get rid of Derek Carr? Because what if like they're like, we're going to go after Aaron Rodgers and they don't get him? They're going to be that would be such a bad move, right?
That would, yeah. And you had this quote from Aaron Rodgers yesterday. I just pulled it up here. It's so many guys' contracts are up or on the brink. Lots of decisions to be made. I don't want to be part of a rebuild if I'm going to keep playing. Yeah. Talking about whether he's going to be back with the Packers. So it's very
honestly,
interesting.
Rodgers on the Raiders would be. They have a pretty good defense. They have like pieces that you just add in an elite wide receiver and an elite quarterback. You could see them taking the next step. They made the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
absolutely. But that's why I have Devontae Adams still a little bit ahead of AJ Brown. I know there's some narrative in there, some speculation, but those are the names. And I pulled up my dynasty rankings just because I was curious. I knew I had AJ Brown in a tier with some of these other guys, but the tier I have him in, it's a decently sized tier, and it's after those top three for me: Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb. It's Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs, and AJ Brown. And that is the tier 2 of dynasty wide receivers for me. You could change that order and I would have no issue with it if AJ Brown was that guy at the top of that tier.
Absolutely. And just real fast about these trade charts that we have up here. These are provided to us by our good friend Alex, aka Peaked in High School. You can find them on Reddit under Peaked in High School. You can find exactly how these trade charts are made and his whole process. And he releases these I think he plans on doing it on a monthly basis. And during the season, he actually has weekly trade charts that are made for redraft. Good. These are all these trade charts are so helpful, so good. As you can see, there's draft picks involved. You can find them on Twitter at Peaked in High School as well. Just a quick shout out to Alex there. Thank you so much for putting these together.
Yeah,
absolutely.
These are awesome. These are a great way to look at how players are being valued by the general public, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. But so AJ Brown, we think he kind of falls into that second tier of wide receivers, but he can be considered as the third best dynasty wide receiver going forward. So I think that kind of wraps up the Titan side of the ball. Now on the Bengals side of the ball, obviously there's a lot of implications here. Joe Burrow and this team gets to go to the next round. They'll either play the Bills or the Chiefs, depending on how that game turns out, right? That's going to be
Joe Burrow. The more I watch him, the more he just seems to have that, like
so much swag.
that factor. Like the only other quarterback I can think of that has that factor is Tom Brady. The one where like no matter what's going on, they find a way, they will their team, they push forward. Like Joe Burrow has this level of confidence and swag on the field. It's not any stat you can look up, but God, I have so much fun watching him, and I'm just so sad as a Browns fan that Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson look like
if the Bengals can beef up that O-line this offseason, Bengals are going to be dangerous. They're already dangerous.
They already are. Yeah, they already are. They're in the championship game, right? That's nuts.
Yeah, they're obviously pretty dangerous. I mean, they have a good defense. Joe Burrow didn't really. I mean, when you just look at his stats, it wasn't that good of a game at all. He didn't throw any touchdowns, but he did have 348 yards, 28 for 37. So a good completion percentage, but one interception. And as we all know, he was sacked 9 times, but I don't know how much we can blame him. I know he was holding the ball long, but I'd rather take a sack over an interception all day. Right, guys? So
right.
Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions. Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times. Look who ended up winning the game, Yeah. So I think that's a part there. We were talking about Joe Mixon a little bit there. Joe Mixon had himself a game, 14 carries, 54 yards. He scored a touchdown, but he had 6 catches on 7 targets and 51 yards. So he continues to produce like he has all year. Guys, I want to ask you an interesting question. And I didn't really tell you about this going in, so it might throw you off a little bit. But I'm going to ask you a dynasty question. So it's Joe Mixon plus a 2023 first round pick. All right.
2023.
First round, you said?
First round pick. Yeah.
Okay.
Or Jonathan Taylor. What side would you rather have here? And just to give you some context, a mid 2023 first round pick is about 39 points on Alex's Dynasty trade chart here. Joe Mixon 67 points. So, and then Jonathan Taylor is 83 points. So when you do the math, the Dynasty trade charts would side with Joe Mixon and the 2023 first. However, Jonathan Taylor.
My answer is going to sound a little bit counterintuitive, but let me explain myself before I say it.
Go ahead.
I feel like generally the win now teams aren't looking for picks, right? Teams that are in win now mode are not looking for picks. The contenders, the ones who are one piece away from winning. But in this trade, if I am a win now team, I'm taking the Joe Mixon plus the pick side because I don't think there is that big of a downgrade from Jonathan Taylor to Joe Mixon in one season next year. And then the 2023 class at running back is already being hyped up as one of the best running back classes in recent memory, right? Like people are hyped about the running backs and the quarterbacks coming out in 2023. I'll take the first and the slight downgrade at running back for Joe Mixon and take that first. And then Joe Mixon's getting a little bit older. You can immediately reload that player and start building with Joe Mixon and a new rookie who's fresh in that offense. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think you're downgrading and you get a free pick right there. Now, if you are a rebuilding team, honestly, I'll take Jonathan Taylor. I'll take the guarantee right there. I'll take Jonathan Taylor and build my team around that piece for the next 3 to 4 seasons. So it's the opposite of what usually is.
Both your logic points make sense in my mind, but I'm actually going to side with the Joe Mixon and 2023 first side of this trade just a little bit. I think it's a fair trade, but I just to a lot of your points there, I think it could make sense for a rebuild or a team that's in win now. So I'm going to side with the Joe Mixon 2023 first. JL, you have any sides that you kind of like there?
This is tough.
I know.
I think it's pretty fair. I would take the Jonathan Taylor side of this.
Okay.
I would take the Jonathan Taylor. I see your points. I like Joe Mixon. I'm very bullish on Joe Mixon going forward, but when I'm just putting these into like, if this is a startup dynasty draft, Jonathan Taylor's going 1. Joe Mixon, you're probably getting in the second round. Most likely, maybe early second round now after the season. 2023
Where's that
first.
Pick going?
Yeah, that's the question, right? If it's a high pick, it's going to be maybe closer to the third, fourth round. I feel like it's typically where we see those like 1 to 5 picks in rookie drafts. They usually go. Just
real fast on the trade charts, an early first round pick would have anywhere from 44 to 50 points, and that's equivalent to someone like J.K. Dobbins, Aaron Jones, T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson, Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
that's according to the trade chart.
Joe Mixon plus T. Higgins or Jonathan Taylor.
Oh,
like let's put a name to it.
That's close enough that it would depend a little bit on my league. So if it's a bigger league and I need depth actually,
you need a wide receiver.
Impacts it any wide receiver, then I would consider that trade. It's fair. It's a very fair trade.
It is.
I still think in most situations I'm going to take the most valuable player here.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't blame you there. I think I'm hyped about this Bengals offense, and that's part of what's making me a little bit higher on Joe Mixon. This Bengals offense is legit. It's for real. I'm terrified of it for next season if they beef this offensive line up a little bit.
Absolutely. So Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both had pretty good games as well in this game. Jamar Chase 5 catches on 6 targets for 109 yards. He is so good, guys. Jamar Chase is awesome. Good. And did T. Higgins get bigger? I don't know. He just looked bigger than I remembered for some reason. Like he just looked so big out there. 7 catches, 9 targets, 96 yards for T. Higgins. These guys look like they're going to be producers in fantasy for years to come. Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson? Just answer the dang question. I know everyone wants to hear it. That's what everyone wants to hear. We answer it all the time. I'm going Justin Jefferson still. You don't have to talk about it a long time if you don't want to. Just answer it.
I flip back and forth right now, Justin Jefferson, but Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are 1A, 1B in Dynasty wide receiver rankings. But T. Higgins, like I just wanted to put it out there. I was looking at my rankings. I've got Jamar Chase at 2, and I've got T. Higgins at 11 in Dynasty wide receiver rankings. I've got both these guys as wide receiver 1s in my Dynasty wide receiver rankings.
That's pretty cool.
It's still Justin Jefferson for me, but it is getting closer. That gap is closing.
It's so close. They're so
T. Higgins
so
at 11.
good.
T. Higgins at 11 is the tiebreaker for me. Know what I mean? Having another young stud wide receiver right there is the slight tiebreaker. Like, yeah, it opens up the field for Jamar Chase, but it limits that volume just by a little bit.
Joe Burrow versus Kirk Cousins, I feel like washes that out a little bit.
Yeah.
I just posted this trade on Twitter, and it looks like Jamar Chase is winning this one pretty good, but it was Deebo Samuel and Damian Harris or Jamar Chase.
Jamar
is that
Chase.
just
I think I
ridiculous?
take
It's just
Jamar
ridiculous.
Chase on that bowl.
Yeah. Is it just ridiculous to even consider the Deebo Samuel and Damian Harris side?
No,
I don't think it's ridiculous.
But it's pretty clearly Jamar Chase for me.
Yeah. I would
You
definitely
give me
take Jamar Chase as well.
A dynasty wide receiver already producing wide receiver 1 values under the age of 24 is unbelievably valuable. People value these under 20. Yeah,
Deebo's like 25, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And riddled injury history. I bring that up quite often, but it's a concern for me with Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel's 26 now.
He's freshly 26.
He definitely
just turned 26.
He's getting older.
Yeah, that's real weird. And then Damian Harris, there's got to be concern with him regardless. I know he just had a killer season, but we know how the Patriots running back. And then Ramondre Stevenson looked really good, so got to be a little concerned. So I understand going with easily Jamar Chase there. What if it was like Deebo Samuel and like Cam Akers? That changes things.
It definitely changes things.
I
think I'd still take Jamar Chase.
I'm interested.
I think I'd still take Jamar Chase, but it does make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, I agree completely. That really changes it for me. Deebo Samuel and Cam Akers. I would be tempted. I would be very tempted. But it's Jamar Chase. I don't want to trade Jamar Chase if I have him.
It's so easy for me to sit here and say Deebo Samuel plus Cam Akers, right? Like I think that might be the right answer. But if I had Jamar Chase on my team, I'm not trading him for Deebo Samuel plus Cam Akers. But like, because I'm not actually making that decision right now, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That side makes sense. But if you sent me that trade offer, I would probably decline it and keep Jamar Chase on my team.
Would you give those guys away for Jamar Chase? It's so weird how it's the same question pretty much.
Honestly, if someone sent me that trade offer, if I've got Deebo and Cam, I would probably take it. I would probably take it for a guy that's in like 1A, 1B, wide receiver 1 overall in Dynasty this early in his career. I think I might take it.
You know, the more I think about it, the more I'm with you, I guess. I do think the value is on the Cam Akers and Deebo side
absolutely.
when it comes down to it. But I would want Jamar Chase though.
But I'm not always hypnotized by value. Sometimes I just get the guys I want. Know what I mean? Value's not the end factor in fantasy sports right here. Coming out, Beach 89 says McDermott underutilizes Josh Allen in these games, not using him enough. It does seem like they've gone with a heavy Devin Singletary theme so far in this game. But Josh Allen's had a couple good games.
He can run.
What's with this theme of underutilizing Josh's?
Yeah.
Run that Josh, boys.
Guys.
Why aren't we running the Josh more?
Every morning in our stand-up meeting, Josh is like, you guys are underutilizing the Josh. Come on.
Run the Josh. Run the Josh right now.
We
agree,
also blame it on
I think
McDermott.
it's a playoff game.
Yeah,
they need to win. Get Josh out and going. Let's go. I think that's going to pretty much wrap up this Titans Bengals game, though. Man, what a good win though for the Bengals. I look, I'm a Ravens fan. They're a AFC North division rival, but I find myself kind of rooting for them. It wasn't just because I had money on them. No, I didn't just bet on them, and that's why I was rooting for them. I like to see them a little bit. Yeah. It's not the only reason.
Josh,
stop saying it's the only reason.
All of us are fellow AFC North fans here. Not Bengals fans. And I find myself pulling for the Bengals as well. What's cool though, is after these games, like the games that have already happened, there are no teams left that I don't want to win the Super Bowl. Know what I mean? Like
you're just cool with it.
There's not a single team left that I would be like, shit. Like if they won the Super Bowl, I'm just excited now. I just want the game that I want. Like I want Bill or the
Chiefs might be the most hated team right now. Like the team that people just don't want to see because they've already done it. You know, all the rest of them I'm cool with.
But even their story so far, like they started out rough. People counted them out. Patrick Mahomes washed, and then they came through, pull it together.
Speaking of guys, touchdown Chiefs.
Through the shovel pass. Also, by the way, every time they use a shovel pass, I want to jump into a into a ditch. I hate shovel passes.
I love it. I think it's cool, man. They figured out a way to generate.
It's like risky
offense. It's awesome.
Oh God, the shovel pass, there's just so much anxiety from the start. Also covering now Beach 89, all caps. McDermott let Josh Allen throw the ball. Hopefully he continues.
Mistake.
Guys, we're going to move on to our next game. The second game decided by a walk-off field goal. The San Francisco 49ers beat the Green Bay Packers 13-10 without scoring a single offensive or defensive touchdown in this game. 13-10.
Barely scored any yards.
Yeah, no yards. The only touchdown coming from a blocked punt or a blocked punt in this game. And the 49ers pull it off. Absolutely.
They also had a blocked field goal earlier in the game, and it mattered. Obviously, they only won by a field goal.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the stat line for this game on the 49ers side of the ball, and it kind of tells the story. They couldn't get anything going. The highest scoring player for the entire San Francisco 49ers was the San Francisco defense. Nobody else scored higher than the defense did. It was, and the defense had 15 points. It wasn't even like one of these preposterous 30-point defense games. This offense couldn't quite get it going. There were other factors though, right? The Green Bay defense is pretty good, but the weather was also insane. The snow was coming down pretty hard in that game. Super cold, and the snow was coming down in the second half pretty hard. But guys, my first question for you is revolving around what I think is going to be the centerpiece of this offense going forward, and that's Deebo Samuel. He's shown he's elite at the wide receiver position. He looks damn good whenever he's carrying the ball as well. And this is kind of new territory for wide receivers whenever we're talking about how do we consider them. We're used to talking about pass catching running backs, right? That's something we're used to talking about. We're not so much used to talking about these wide receivers that are also integral in the rushing game. And we've already seen it a bit today in other games. Isaiah McKenzie has taken a couple carries for the Bills already. We're seeing these wide receivers. Tyreek Hill takes carries for the Chiefs. We see these players getting more involved. How do you guys view Deebo Samuel into next season and then in a dynasty context? Is he a top 5 wide receiver with the dual role that he has on this team, or do you think that hinders him at all? Josh, we'll come to you first.
Well, I'm going to do something like I did before that none of you asked for, but I may just do because I feel like it. And these are my 2022 wide receiver tiers, something I just put together earlier this week. Like I said, for the running back tiers we were just looking at. And as you can see, I have Deebo Samuel in the borderline elite tier. So I think for me, going into next season, will I draft Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase above Deebo Samuel? That's still to be determined. I'm actually currently leaning both Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase's way. Maybe Tyreek Hill, maybe a Stephon Diggs, but Deebo Samuel's in a tier with these guys. You cannot separate these guys, in my opinion. Deebo Samuel's going to be at least, at minimum, a top 7 wide receiver for me.
JL,
and he's going to be a top 5. He's top 5 at this moment, for sure.
Just for next season.
For next season, this would be the tiers for next season.
Top 5. I don't know. Are you guys at all concerned about this ankle injury that it looked like he was dealing with towards the end of the game? He limped off at the end of the game. I mean, I know that's
for the next game, yes, but not necessarily for next season. Right?
That's fair.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, he's off injured. He has an injury riddled past. Throughout college, he was hurt like almost every year. So something to think about.
Yeah. No, I think he's top 10 for me. He's top 10. I don't know if I can put him top 5. Maybe just outside top 5.
He's right on that line, right? Like 5-6 whenever it comes to redraft formats. But I think you have it broken down here very well. The elites, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, and that's assuming he's with Aaron Rodgers in my mind for Devontae Adams.
Adams takes a step down if he's not with Aaron Rodgers.
I'm making that assumption that he is going to be with Aaron Rodgers. And then that next wide receiver drafted, I think you have to talk about Deebo Samuel. I'm likely taking Tyreek Hill over him. But then Deebo Samuel, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase are all guys that I would consider as that 4th wide receiver off the board in redraft formats next year. I think you have to talk about him that way.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So that's just kind of the tiers. Wanted to quickly go over, but get those off of there.
Yeah. George Kittle, I don't think we need to talk too much about. He's an unreal tight end and will probably continue to produce that value. The other player on this 49ers offense, though, I did want to talk about was Elijah Mitchell, who has kind of stepped into this role as the starting running back. A real steal in the drafts, in the NFL draft. And I guess in fantasy drafts, if you even drafted him, probably didn't. He's a waiver wire guy. But I was talking NFL draft.
I got him in the fourth round in 2 leagues, actually.
Yeah. Fourth round in our dynasty.
Rookie draft. Yeah, rookie draft.
I think in our dynasty league, I got him for like $90 of fab. Signed him for $90 fab.
Very nice.
Yeah.
There you go. So how I view Elijah Mitchell, I think I've been a little bit of the naysayer or a little bit further down on him than like industry consensus, than public perception is. And for me, it comes down to just how this 49ers team has used the running back position in the past. I don't trust that Elijah Mitchell, without that high draft capital, is going to be the guy next year, like the one guy in this backfield that they trust. But Josh, I think you disagree a little bit on that point, if I'm not mistaken. You're a little bit higher on Elijah Mitchell than I am for next season in Dynasty.
Yeah, no? I mean, no, you're right. I have a lot of faith in Elijah Mitchell, both for next season and for Dynasty. Look, I understand the concerns. The 49ers have shown in the past that, there's a next man up mentality. Someone can't perform, someone gets injured, the next guy is going to be able to do it. And that's typically what it's looked like. But I think Elijah Mitchell has proven it more than any other 49ers running back we have seen with Kyle Shanahan. I really do. And whenever Elijah Mitchell is healthy, he gets a huge workload. We haven't even seen a time. We haven't even seen him be healthy and them not give him some kind of decent workload, like he's always involved. Now there's still more to be, wanted in the pass catching game. He doesn't get a ton of targets, but enough to be relevant. I am very high on Elijah Mitchell. I think the 49ers have decided he's the guy going forward. Now the only question is if he's going to stay healthy, but I think you can ask that question about every single running back out there, right? So I'm bullish on Elijah Mitchell.
So just to gauge, and this may be way off, I'm just curious on value-wise. Elijah Mitchell, J.K. Dobbins. Is he close to J.K. Dobbins in value? Is he a similar tier, or are you guys having J.K. Dobbins clearly ahead of him?
Dynasty formats?
Let's talk next season and Dynasty. So next season first. J.K. Dobbins, Elijah Mitchell. Who are you guys taking?
For next season, I actually have them in the same tier. They would both be running back twos for me. I'm probably drafting J.K. Dobbins ahead of Elijah Mitchell. But they're very close.
Yeah.
Maybe neck and neck, actually, like back to back in my rankings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next season, I think I would take Elijah Mitchell just over Dobbins. In Dynasty, I'd flip it. I'd take Dobbins over Mitchell.
Man, yeah, I think that's a name that is you're going to see a lot whenever we're talking about Elijah Mitchell. And the scary part is just that draft capital for Elijah Mitchell for me. If there was a little bit higher draft capital, a little bit more of an investment from this 49ers team, I think I'd be a little bit more comfortable with Elijah Mitchell, especially in dynasty formats. But man, I'm just nervous that we're going to go back to this committee approach by the 49ers next season. They're going to reload this running back room, and we're going to see a committee where Elijah Mitchell's not getting these carries. But Josh, you bring up a great point. Every time he's been healthy, he gets the work. But this has been a fairly beat up running back room for the 49ers this year.
Now, I will say, when you say committee, like he's never going to be a guy that's on the field like for 80%, 90% of the snaps.
Right.
The 49ers are never going to do that. He's not going to be the uber workhorse running back. I don't think he's ever going to be their full-time pass catching back either. They want multiple running backs involved. So I do agree with you there. That's probably what sets J.K. Dobbins ahead. While I do think there will be a mix of running backs, I think there's just more opportunity for him actually when it comes down to it.
And this is interesting. The chart you just This is interesting, the chart you just pulled up here. So this chart pulls in a lot of like expert consensus rankings and basically creates these tiers and these values based off of those. And Elijah Mitchell being dead even with A.J. Dillon is super interesting to me. One has a starting job, one is behind Aaron Jones. And then in that same tier is Kareem Hunt and Miles Sanders right there. Would you guys have Elijah Mitchell near the front of this one? The three names ahead of him, I would probably be taking in a dynasty format over Elijah Mitchell. Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, A.J. Dillon. Would you guys have Elijah Mitchell over?
You would take them ahead of Elijah Mitchell?
I'll have all three of those guys ahead of Elijah Mitchell.
Absolutely not. Elijah Mitchell belongs with these three running backs: Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Travis Etienne, and Josh Jacobs, in my opinion.
Jail, do you align more with me or with Josh on this one?
I'm aligning closer with Josh on this one. The thing about Dobbins too is we forget is they don't use him as we want as fantasy managers, right? Like I feel like we've been falling like a little bit prey to the narrative, but he is kind of frustrating to manage as a fantasy manager in the past. And so he comes back, there's a chance that they're not going to give him a ton of work every single game. That he's not going to be as consistent. So I think that's the thing that really separates the two for me.
Well, we got to remember that was his rookie year.
It was his rookie year.
Get the workload, and it was really the end of the year that gave us a lot of confidence. That's really where he was on the field a lot more, and he was getting a lot more of the carries. And he had the I think second most rushing yards per game behind Nick Chubb that year. So he was very efficient. He looked very good, and it just like we're
very efficient.
It was kind of like Cam Akers in a way. Like we didn't see a ton both their rookie seasons, and we projected a lot going into their second seasons, and they both missed pretty much the entire year. We're seeing some of it from Cam Akers now. I really lump those two guys together in both Dynasty and going into next season.
That's a fair point. And I think efficiency is the key word there. Like J.K. Dobbins was hyper efficient, and we've seen a lot of changes in this offense from then to now, right? Over the past year. And so that's where that uncertainty is where that it adds a little bit much to me, or adds a little bit more weight to the Elijah Mitchell side for me.
That makes sense. But according to these trade charts, though, Elijah Mitchell is significantly below J.K. Dobbins.
Yes.
Significantly.
Dynasty, I'm still taking Dobbins.
Me too.
I think Dynasty is what's driving that difference here, right? If this was a redraft chart, I think those guys are a little bit closer, but Dynasty, I think that's what's driving that difference here. And I'm not sure how much that gap's going to close during the offseason. Albert in here, Bills just tied it up. Gabriel Davis with a touchdown catch right there. I mean, he's been kind of stepping up late into this season, hasn't he? Gabriel Davis has taken on like a slightly bigger role with his offense than he did over the course of the regular season. It's looked like he's been a bit more involved. It's been exciting to watch him. And I'm just cheering for points at this point. I just want this team to keep on scoring points. I want the Chiefs to win just because I said the Chiefs were going to win. But outside of that, I'm just as many points as can be scored before this game is over is what I want. Also, coming in now, Beach 89. Looks like they got put in timeout. You got put in timeout. What'd you do? Were you naughty?
Maybe all caps. I don't know.
Sit down at Nightbot. I'm just telling you, if you try to fight Nightbot, you're probably going to lose. Nightbot is defeated on that one, guys.
Damn, machines taking over.
Guys, the last thing I wanted to talk about on this 49ers side of the ball was if the 49ers, let's say they come through and win this Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo's able to lead them. Do you guys think it's a guarantee? Like what percentage chance that Trey Lance is the starter for this team next year? Or is there a percentage chance that Jimmy Garoppolo comes back and leads this team again, especially with the success they've had in the postseason here? Now, it has not been due to Jimmy Garoppolo. You can look at his stat line in this game and see that. But Josh, what do you think on that front?
I think people are leaving Jimmy Garoppolo for dead right now. I think there's a lot of people out there. I would say the majority of people out there are saying that Jimmy Garoppolo will not be with the San Francisco 49ers going into next season. However, I think what you say, if the 49ers go to the Super Bowl, if they win the Super Bowl under Jimmy Garoppolo, how can they just be like, all right, see ya, Jimmy. Trey Lance is the guy when we haven't really seen anything from him, right? Having said that, Jimmy Garoppolo, I know it was a cold game. It was a cold, windy game in Green Bay, but he didn't do anything this game. Completed 11 passes for 131 yards and threw one interception. You want to see a little bit more production than that. I know they ended up winning this game, but it was not because of their offense whatsoever. I think they need to give Trey Lance a shot. They gave up a lot to go get him. I would say a lot of people would say their future to go. This Trey Lance is their future, right? He's got to be.
Yeah.
So I think they have to go. They have to go with Trey Lance, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think, Jale?
I think that they have to as well. I think that the only scenario where it becomes really difficult to tell is if he wins the Super Bowl, maybe even if he makes it to the Super Bowl. But even so, it's going to be hard to justify giving up all that stuff, because then people are going to say, all right, well, if you already had Jimmy Garoppolo, why did you have to trade all those picks to the Dolphins, right? Yeah. Why did you have to trade up for Trey Lance, who you're not even playing? when you could have just done it with Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, it seemed like it was a good, I still think it was a good move. I don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the long-term success of any team. I don't think that he plays at that caliber. Even if
go to the Steelers.
Yeah. But I mean, if he plays well, he's already played well enough. I think that he's going to probably get another starting job.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to start for the 49ers next season unless he wins. And then I feel like even then
he would have to look awesome winning.
He would have to look awesome winning.
It wouldn't just have to be Elijah Mitchell has 200 yards. Deebo Samuel does everything. And
Josh, that's the exact point I was going to bring up. It would take more than them just winning the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo would have to be the reason they win these next 2 games. In my eyes, this franchise seems like they've already decided Trey Lance is the future. They're ready to build with him. They're taking a similar approach where he sat a year behind a veteran quarterback. Whatever you think of said veteran quarterback, there's a lot to learn whenever you get into the NFL. There's a lot Jimmy G knows that Trey Lance does not, that Trey Lance got to learn this year. But it seems like the 49ers are ready to move on. Jimmy G, it sounds crazy, but it would take more than just the 49ers winning the Super Bowl. He has to go out there and he has to win the Super Bowl, I feel like, for him to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers next year. But I completely agree. He'll land a starting job probably. I don't know where, but there's plenty of teams where he would be an upgrade at quarterback based on what they have on their roster. It's hard to find an average starter in the NFL, and Jimmy Garoppolo is one of those guys.
I think the Mahomes comp is pretty good. Alex Smith was balling out that season, and he still was not the. I know he didn't go far into the playoffs. Where they lost the first round, right, of the playoffs, I believe that year.
Who was it?
Alex Smith and the Chiefs.
Oh, I don't think they went very far in the playoffs.
I think they lost in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a very similar type of situation.
Yeah.
But the difference here is that Alex Smith was playing really well. He's playing lights out that whole season. Jimmy Garoppolo is not.
Yeah. And they got something for Alex Smith. The Chiefs handled that situation well.
Yeah, they did.
Coming now has a question for us while they're not in timeout. Honest question here. Who's better, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes? I'm glad you were brought out of timeout to ask us this question. So just at football, take fantasy out of it. Who's better, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes?
I guess the question is if you had to start a new team. Yeah, exactly.
Lamar Jackson retires tomorrow. Baker Mayfield leaves the Browns. For me, you guys, which one of these guys would you rather have as the quarterback for your franchise, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes? JL?
Give me Patrick Mahomes.
Give me Patrick Mahomes all day.
All day, yep.
Yeah.
No offense to Josh Allen.
Mahomes.
Nope.
I would. Josh Allen would be a great consolation prize here, right? No, I was going to say it would be a great consolation prize because I think you might have just named 1 and 2, like the top 2 quarterbacks you would want to start a franchise with, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. If you had to start a new franchise today, those are probably the 2 guys that teams are fighting over the most. So this is a great question. Patrick Mahomes edges him out slightly, but that's no indictment on Josh Allen. That just puts him at number 2 as far as quarterbacks I want to start a new franchise with.
Who's your third? Who's your third? It could be Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott.
You know what? Start a franchise, not fantasy.
Yeah.
Give me Joe Burrow. Give me Joe Burrow. Just what I've seen from him. That's a lot. Right. It's between him, Justin Herbert, and Lamar Jackson. Those are the 3 guys.
Justin Herbert would definitely be my third, to be honest. As a Ravens fan, I definitely want to say Lamar Jackson.
Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are like that. I've just seen this factor from Joe Burrow when it comes to closing out games in those moments where I'll take Joe Burrow, but it's close. JL, that was a good question. What do you think? Who's your third after these 2 guys? If you were starting a new franchise, I
turned my camera off so I didn't have to answer.
Well, I think you could consider Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson,
Joe Burrow,
Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford.
I think I'd go Lamar.
Fair.
Lamar. I don't blame you. That was one of the 3 names I was considering. So we had 3 different names: Justin Herbert,
I think Joe Burrow, probably the right
Lamar
answer.
Jackson.
But
I think Justin Herbert's probably the right answer, but my heart says Lamar.
God,
I take Lamar and
Herbert so much.
I take Lamar and Joe over Herbert, but
fair enough.
He's in that conversation.
Herbert hater.
I was.
Hate Herbert.
I've come around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Herbert's
guys, it
proven so
didn't take a
much
lot
for
of
him this way.
convincing for me with Herbert. The very first game he played in the NFL, I came out and said
You were like
he's like
immediately
a Hall
a
of
stand.
Famer.
Yeah. Generational talent.
like it took one game for me to say generational talent, and I got so much shit for that because that word is thrown around so much.
Shit.
But yeah, 100%. I deserved every last bit of it. But you know what? It's looking
It's
pretty
nothing wrong
good
with being
for
excited
me right now. I was pretty excited there. Guys, on the Green Bay side of this ball, Aaron Jones was the fantasy star for this game. Everyone else was a little bit disappointing. Devontae Adams, it was a decent game from him. But we've talked a lot about Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers already in this offense. I want to talk about the running backs here. So my primary question is, in a dynasty format, so not redraft, who do you guys prefer in this backfield? Who would you rather have on your team, Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon? Josh?
I mean, in a dynasty startup draft, I'm drafting Aaron Jones above AJ Dillon. There are a lot of people out there that are flipped, and maybe one of you two guys are. I don't think either of you are. We'll see. But I would draft Aaron Jones. There's no doubt in my mind first. Aaron Jones, he's 27, guys. That's scary. That is a scary age for running backs, especially in dynasty. But hey, I'm older than 27, bro. All right, listen up. Aaron Jones just got 9 catches for 129 yards. this game here. Yeah, Aaron Jones is a better pass catching running back. Maybe they don't have Aaron Rodgers next season. I know AJ Dillon's younger. He's kind of built a little bit more like Derrick Henry. I know he's like a bigger guy. He's not quite as tall as Derrick Henry, but I like Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones would be my choice, even though he's a little bit older. They gave him that big contract.
Jail, what about you? Are you in line with Josh?
Yep. Everything Josh said, I agree with. Aaron Jones.
And I wish I could be the other opinion because I know there's a lot of people that would prefer AJ Dillon in a dynasty format, but I'm Aaron Jones as well. Now, don't get me wrong. AJ Dillon is good and will be a part of this Packers offense. Aaron Jones is not the 3-down workhorse back that maybe people are looking for in fantasy. AJ Dillon will get some of that goal line work as we saw yesterday, right? But Aaron Jones is still the back that I want to roster in this offense. Now, my other question for you guys is, with the assumption that Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are leaving, there's a lot of secondary receiving options in this offense that have kind of been overlooked or haven't been super valuable for fantasy purposes. We're talking MVS. We're talking Allen Lazard. We're talking Randall Cobb. We're talking Amari Rogers. Are there any of these players that you guys have interest in for next season? And you know what? I'm going to be an asshole, and I'm going to answer my own question first.
Yeah, I love it.
There's a player all season, and like, let's be real. I've got a Clemson bias. I went to Clemson. I love Clemson players. I've seen them play a lot. You can say there's a bias, but there's also an element where I've watched them play a lot, right? I've seen these guys play. Amari Rogers was supremely talented in college, and I was excited to see what he would do here. Wasn't expecting much from his first season in the NFL, but in this game, he was a lot more involved than we'd seen throughout the season. It seems like maybe they're starting to trust him a little bit more. I'm not saying Amari Rogers is a superstar wide receiver in the NFL, but what I am saying is I think with Devontae Adams leaving that he's going to step into a bigger role in this offense, and I think he's a great super buy low candidate in dynasty formats if you can go trade for Amari Rogers. Josh, any of these secondary receiving options, whether it's Amari Rogers or elsewhere, that you're interested in?
No, if there's one guy I would want, it is Amari Rogers. I think I see Jay here in the chat saying Lazard is a free agent, and like we expect, Devontae Adams we don't expect to be there. Maybe Aaron Rodgers isn't there as well. But Amari Rogers, rookie, a lot of talent. I like his value in dynasty. You probably can get him pretty cheap right now because a lot of people are expecting a lot of downfall for the Packers. So I like trying to go out and buy low on Amari Rogers.
Joe, what about you?
Super cheap,
I'm with you.
right?
I'm with you. I'm also biased because I'm a Clemson guy, but
I'm not Clemson.
I really do.
And
you are not biased, but you like Simon and I, so we have biased you.
That probably makes
you think
me
we're handsome, and we
think against him.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That is a good point. I'm not interested in Lazard or really any other wide receiver on the team.
Yeah, I get that.
If we look at the dynasty trade chart right here real fast, Amari Rogers is here. He's very low at 6, though, but he does have value.
God, I'll trade a third for him all day right now. Like I'm seeing over there the
late third.
Oh, I'll trade a 3rd-round pick for Amari Rogers, no problem. That's not a question in my mind.
In a one quarterback dynasty league, this is got to specify because when it's a super flex, those 3rd-round picks are a little bit more valuable. But
a little bit. I think I would still trade a super flex 3rd-round pick for Amari Rogers. You're taking you're taking serious dart throws in the 3rd round in most of these leagues. That's not to say value can't be had. Josh, you said earlier in the show you got Elijah Mitchell in the 4th round of some of these dynasty startups, but I'll take what I've seen from Amari Rogers, especially the trend towards the end of the season and into this postseason over a 3rd round pick. 2022, 2023.
I'm just looking at the names around him. It's like, I'd rather have him than freaking all these running backs. Like
Van Jefferson or Amari Rogers?
I'll take Van Jefferson.
Yeah. What about Paris Campbell? That's a good one. That's a really good one. I don't know.
I'll take Amari Rogers, but that one's very close.
I think
I'd probably take Amari Rogers.
Okay. I feel a little bit more like a mystery box with Amari Rogers than with Paris Campbell. I feel like we have a little bit more definition on what his.
I will say Josh Palmer. I like him. I think he's.
You like Josh Palmer?
I would take him over Amari Rogers.
There we go.
Antonio Brown or Amari Rogers
in Dynasty. Give me Antonio Brown. I'll take one. Oh wait. Oh man, no.
I'll take Amari Rogers.
Give me Amari Rogers. But the question is there, like, if Antonio Brown does play again, he's undoubtedly more valuable than Amari Rogers. It's just that I bet you think he'll play another snap in the NFL ever again. We did have a question from Coming Out Beach 89. They said, so if the Bills win this game, Bills-Niners Super Bowl, would you be excited?
I'm going to be excited no matter what, but yeah.
It's probably the least excited matchup that I would be excited for in the Super Bowl, but I'll still be excited.
Rams.
Yes,
yeah,
Rams.
I would rather see
Bills.
the Rams.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I feel like 49ers would just get wrecked if it's 49ers Bills.
I don't know. I mean, if the 49ers end up beating the Rams, that would prove a lot to me.
It would. Depending, I guess,
if they can beat the Rams, not at home, I think they could beat the Bills.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think they're going to beat the Rams, though.
Coming now at another question: Van Jefferson or Ayuk going forward? Josh,
Ayuk.
It's Ayuk.
I like
Van
as
Jefferson well on that one.
Maybe if Odell wasn't there, that's closer.
I do like Van Jefferson a lot, but yeah, it's Ayuk.
We'll see if Odell's still there next season. I think there's probably a good chance.
I'll go Ayuk as well on that one, guys.
Oh my God, I completely missed this. Whenever Jay said Lazard is a free agent, and Maria said, or he's a flight attendant.
Either way, he might be. He might be.
Could be.
I think he might be. Yeah. I like
Jay confirming that's what he meant.
Sorry about that, guys. Guys, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next game. This game was, man, like both the games we talked about were already phenomenal, but this was probably the best game of the weekend so far. The Los Angeles Rams going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Rams, by the skin of their teeth, pulled this W out.
The Bucs had it, man. I thought the Bucs had it.
Gosh, it was unbelievable. The ending to that game, 2 touchdowns from the Bucs in the last 4 minutes of that game, 4 fumbles lost from the Rams.
Cam Akers.
2 of them from Cam Akers. 2 fumbles lost from Cam Akers in this game. 1 on the 1-yard line.
He had a fumble last game too, right? Last weekend?
I don't remember actually.
I'll bet that. Thought he did.
Well, we got to. He's got a little bit of a built-in excuse, right? His first couple games
his
of the
Achilles
season,
made his hand grip weak.
Yeah, but like he's just not getting those reps throughout the season, right?
Yeah,
that's definitely part of it. But the Rams have chosen to give him, 24 carries in this game. What the heck? They chose him to give him a huge workload, and they must have had confidence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, on the Rams side of this ball, we've talked a bit about these receivers so far, but Cooper Kupp, I think we're all under the assumption that in redraft next year, he's likely the number 1 overall wide receiver, right? Josh, I know you had him as your number 1 overall wide receiver, right?
Yeah, I think there would be some debate there if Devontae Adams is still with Aaron Rodgers. I think you could easily make that debate, actually. Regardless, I'm putting Cooper Kupp as my number 1 wide receiver, no doubt in my mind.
Jill, what about you?
In redraft?
In redraft.
Yes.
He's up there. I think he's top 3 for me.
And how far up in Dynasty does he go for you? Because this is a player that I think his skill set isn't necessarily dependent on his pure athleticism in the game, right? This is the kind of receiver where he's a polished route runner. He goes out there. I think his Dynasty value has increased a ton this season. I'm just curious if you guys view him as a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty at this point. Are you putting him in that top 12 wide receiver category, Josh, in Dynasty?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I'm not going to draft him in the first round of really any Dynasty leagues because the age, he's not really that young. He's 28 years old, but, that's not a killer or anything. He's still going to have years of production being 28. And I think he's a very good route runner. And he's paired with Matthew Stafford for the foreseeable future. Those two obviously have a connection. I could consider Cooper Kupp above everyone. I think you could consider him the third wide receiver off the board.
Number 3 in Dynasty formats?
I think you could.
So you're taking him over AJ Brown?
I didn't say I would. I said you could. All right. There's a difference. My if I had to rank these guys, it'd be Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, then Cooper Kupp.
Joe, what about you?
I think he's a back-end wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. Back-end wide receiver 1. I'm taking Debo ahead of him. Taking Devontae Adams ahead of him. DK Metcalf. Yeah,
let me ask this. So I was just looking at my Dynasty wide receiver rankings. I actually have Cooper Kupp right outside of that wide receiver 1 territory. I've got him at wide receiver 13 in Dynasty. I'm in the player directly ahead of him that I've debated. I've switched back and forth multiple times.
It better not be Terry McLaurin.
Jalen Waddle
Yeah.
or Cooper Kupp in a Dynasty format. Who would you rather have on your team? Josh, Jalen Waddle or Cooper Kupp? Cooper Kupp? JL, what about you?
I'll take Cooper Kupp.
You'll take Cooper Kupp? I think
I will say I'd put Jalen Waddle above all these wide receivers in his own tier that he's in here, the yellow guys. Maybe not Deebo Samuel. I'm still putting Deebo Samuel, but then it's Jalen Waddle. And I actually probably moved Deebo Samuel and Jalen Waddle into a tier with these guys.
Yeah, I think I would do that too. What about T. Higgins?
He would be in a tier with these guys, but probably at the top.
I've got T. Higgins ahead of Cooper Kupp in my Dynasty rankings, but it's very close. It's very close. I think I have Cooper Kupp a little bit too low, for being honest. I probably need to revisit. But Cooper Kupp is he's right there on that wide receiver 1 line in Dynasty format. Sean had a question for us, guys. We're talking about this Tampa Bay Rams game. He says, what does Brady do next year? I feel like he's definitely going to play at least one more season. I feel like this game alone, Sean, added 3 more seasons of motivation for Tom Brady. Like
3 more chips on his shoulder.
Right? Like this dude has operated his entire career just about like chips on his shoulder. I swear like 5 of the Super Bowls he's won has just been because he didn't get the perfect season against the Giants. He's going to play at least one more year. If I had to bet, like how many years, if you had to place a bet right now, and if you get it right, $1 million, how many more seasons does Tom Brady play? I'll say 3.
3 feels about right. If I had to put $1 million on it, I'll say 2 more years.
2 more years? JL, what about you?
You guys both stole mine.
You can say the same number.
7 more years.
Shit, I'll say 4. Let's go for it. Let's ride,
4 from
Tommy.
JL. He's going to play until
we're going to remember
gets to
this,
play with his
JL.
son.
I hope we don't. I can't remember what happened yesterday. There's no way I'm going to remember this in 4 years.
Joe, you get
Not a
all the
chance.
overs though. You get every over here. If it's
yesterday,
4 or more,
the
then you get all
Bengals
of
beat
it.
the Titans and the 49ers beat the Packers.
That is true.
That is 100% true.
Guys,
guys,
the over-under does look FanDuel in here saying over-under 2.5 more Tom Brady.
Yes.
It makes so much. It makes so much. I think that's the perfect line.
Yeah.
that is the perfect line. Oh, I'd probably take the over.
2.5. 2.5 is the most difficult to pick. I would not be able to pick. I would take the over. I know exactly what I pick. I take the over.
You know what? With Chris Godwin being a free agent, I'll take the over because I think it makes it less likely that they win another Super Bowl. And if Tom wins a Super Bowl next year, I think there's a very real chance he retires. But I think he's got one more in him. He's got one more Super Bowl, then he's going to ride off into the sunset.
He definitely does.
I just don't think it's next year. I don't think they get that next year, and I think he's going to want to end on a Super Bowl. And if anybody can will themselves to a Super Bowl at like close to age 50, it's Tom Brady. But back to the Rams side of this ball, Matthew Stafford is in here fighting for his first Super Bowl of his career. He spent most of his career with the Detroit Lions. He's over here with the Rams for his first season.
It must feel so good.
Oh my gosh. And he's been playing like this. You know what I mean? Matthew Stafford's been a baller since he's been in the league. He's been tough. He hasn't missed a ton of games. It's really awesome. I know just from like a fan perspective, to see Matthew Stafford finding this level of success. How do you guys view Matthew Stafford in a dynasty context? There's all these young quarterbacks, the Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. Like, I could just keep going with these young quarterbacks people are excited for. Is Matthew Stafford in the mix with those guys, or is he firmly after these young quarterbacks? Jail?
In Dynasty?
In Dynasty.
He's after these guys. I'm excited for him for the next few years, but his age definitely has a big effect on his value in Dynasty.
So Josh, I'll change the question a little bit for you, just to keep you on your toes. Matthew Stafford or Justin Fields in a Superflex Dynasty league? Who are you taking?
So if you came to me with the original question, I'd say he's absolutely after those guys, and he's in a tier with the rookie quarterbacks from this past season. I would have said he's in a tier with Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields. And the question really is,
so I made it harder for
first. There's quarterbacks or Matthew Stafford, and I was actually just trying to process this right here. And Matthew Stafford, he's 33 years old, but I mean, every year of his career, he's been a pretty good fantasy relevant player, more or less. And now with the Rams, he was a number 5 overall quarterback this year. He looked really freaking good. And when you're taking Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Trevor Lawrence, you're really taking more of a risk, a lot more of a risk. We haven't seen it from any of those guys. I probably lean Matthew Stafford here.
Josh, I'm with you. I've got Matthew Stafford, and you nailed it. There is a tier right there, right? Like, let me just look at this tier in my rankings. Number 10 overall in Dynasty, I've got Matthew Stafford. And then there's Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Jalen Hurts. And I feel like that's a pretty solid tier. And Matthew Stafford, though, is leading that tier for me. Right now, I think I have to take Stafford because of the risk factor with all of the other players and what Stafford is doing in this Rams offense. I think he's got he's not old. Know what I mean? He's older than these guys, but you've probably got at least 3-4 more seasons of this level of production from him in this Rams offense. I'll take Matthew Stafford over those guys, but it is very close. I think that those are the names to consider. JL, Matthew Stafford or Justin Fields? I'll ask you the same question. You said after all of those guys, so I just want confirmation. Is it still Justin Fields for you?
Yeah, I'd take Justin Fields in Dynasty.
That's fair. I think
are you taking all those rookie quarterbacks over Stafford then, you think?
I'm definitely taking Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I would take them all. They're clumped together.
Trey Lance, Justin Lawrence,
and
Trevor Fields.
And Trey Fields.
And Trey Fields and Trevor. We forgot one of the last names. I don't know which.
but you agree?
Trevor Lance.
Trevor Lance.
they're in a tier for you, JL, though?
Yes.
Okay. Makes sense. And I guess I'll throw guys like Russell Wilson in that tier. Aaron Rodgers? Yeah. Is Aaron Rodgers in that tier?
He's with Stafford in my mind.
What about Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts is in that tier for me. There's uncertainty around his future, but his production is undeniable whenever he plays. He's got that rushing upside. I put Jalen Hurts in that same tier for me.
Sure.
Yeah. Guys, we're going to move on to the Tampa.
Bottom
of the tier. Yeah. We're going to move on to the Tampa Bay side of this ball. And the primary thing I want to talk about here, actually, you know what? I'm burying the lead. I want to talk about Mike Evans because I love him. I love him so much. And there's not much that we need to say about him, but he is just an unbelievable wide receiver. And it was so much fun watching him have the success that he did have in little spurts in this game. And it came at pretty predictable times. There was it seemed like the ball was being fed to Scotty Miller over and over and over and over again. And you see the Rams defense adjust. They adjust to make sure Scotty Miller is covered. And on that very first play where the Rams defense adjusts to cover Scotty Miller, leaving Mike Evans one-on-one with Jalen Ramsey, what does Tom Brady do? He hits Mike Evans for the bomb touchdown. I just love this guy. I just love him so much. And you can expect another 1,000-yard season out of Mike Evans next year. But the player I think we do need to talk about, guys, it's not a receiver for the Buccaneers. It's a running back, and that's Leonard Fournette, who there's no guarantee he's with the Buccaneers next season, right? He's a free agent after this year. If I believe, Josh, do you think he's going to end up with the Bucs again next season, or do you think he's on a new team?
I think it makes the most sense by far for both of these parties, both Leonard Fournette and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to bring back Leonard Fournette. Coming into this year, Leonard Fournette apparently was offered more money from other teams to go sign with them, but he chose to sign this 1-year deal to come back with the Bucs because it gave him the best opportunity to succeed. And boy, did he succeed. Leonard Fournette looked freaking awesome this year. He was the number 6 overall PPR running back. Very impressed with Leonard Fournette.
With his missing time?
He was the number 6 overall PPR running back playing in 14 games this season.
Wow.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette, I'm sold. I think the Buccaneers should do everything they can to bring him back.
And I think the Buccaneers maybe win this game if they don't abandon their strategy in the first half of that first quarter. They were just chugging along with Leonard Fournette. Then they got behind, went more to Tom Brady. Tom Brady threw over 50 passes again this game, but Leonard Fournette looks to be a crucial piece of this offense. Josh, I 100% agree with you. I think it makes the most sense for him to be back on the Bucs. And if he is, he's a top 10 PPR running back for me next year, most likely. He's in that range. I don't know how you consider him like outside of the top 12 in redraft formats going into next year if he's back on this Bucs offense. JL, do you agree?
In PPR?
In PPR.
In PPR. Who would I be putting above him? Let's see. I put Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, CMC. He's bringing him back up. Alvin Kamara, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon. No, he's not top 10 for me. He's not top 10.
I know Leonard Fournette is here. He's actually in the high upside free agents. I didn't actually put him in the tiers, but when I talked about this and did the video, I said if he's back with the Buccaneers and Tom Brady's there, obviously, he's in the borderline elite tier for me. So he would be a top 10 running back for me personally.
So let me ask you guys this: Javonte Williams or Leonard Fournette next season?
If he's back with the Buccaneers, like I said, I'm putting him in the borderline elites, and I put Javonte Williams in the grade star category here. So Leonard Fournette over Javonte Williams.
Simon?
There's a lot of ifs in this situation. If Javonte Williams,
what we know now,
and real fast, Albert made a really good point in the chat and said Ronald Jones is also going to be a free agent, and that's also true.
They're going to let him walk.
Ronald Jones, take him out of here. I don't even need to consider him as one of the factors whenever I'm talking about this. If Javonte Williams is back with the Broncos and Melvin Gordon is not, so Javonte Williams obviously will be, and Melvin Gordon is not, I will take him over Leonard Fournette regardless. Now, if Melvin Gordon is back and Javonte Williams and Leonard Fournette is back on the Bucs, I'll take Leonard Fournette over Javonte Williams. It comes down to Melvin Gordon right there. Now, Leonard Fournette signs with a different team. It's going to depend on the team, right? If he signs with the Falcons, I'm probably still taking him over Javonte Williams with a Melvin Gordon. But it depends where he lands. It's super close.
What about DeAndre Swift?
I'll take
DeAndre Swift. I'll take Swift.
I think I'd probably end up drafting Leonard Fournette above DeAndre Swift, but that's where the list would end for me.
Chubb?
Yeah, I'd take Leonard Fournette over Chubb.
Over Chubb. And Mixon, I'm guessing you guys are taking Mixon.
Mixon.
Oh, yeah, I'll take Mixon.
What about Najee Harris?
Mixon's in conversation for that 4th overall running back up there with Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler. I consider Mixon in that conversation for the next guy drafted. Najee Harris, I'll take Harris as well. The volume was insane as a rookie. I can only imagine, especially with their changing quarterback situation, that he's going to get even more of a workload next year. We may see the efficiency dip even further than it was this year, but I'll still.
It sounds like you guys have him just inside the top 10 going into next season.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. He's just inside the top 10, but I think it would be hard to get him out of there. But he's just inside that top 10 running back range. And FanDuel said Jerick McKinnon is Kansas City's running back 1.
What a world!
Oh my gosh, that it matches his jersey number, right? He's number 1 on his jersey, right? Isn't Jerick McKinnon's number 1? So it's just the power of positive thinking. You just got to visualize it, put it on your jersey, and then you become the number 1 overall running back for the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's how it works.
Jay in here saying, did someone say Joe Mixon? We've said Joe Mixon so many times, Jay. We love Joe Mixon right here. That's what it's coming down to. We outside of Leonard Fournette on this offense, guys, Tom Brady, we've already talked about at length. But what I did want to talk about is, so we know Chris Godwin is a free agent this year. There's a good chance he's not back with the Bucs because he's probably going to demand a pretty hefty price tag. I guess this is a 2-part question. 1, do you imagine he's back with the Bucs? 2, if he's not, do any of these secondary receiving options scream out to you as a value? A Tyler Johnson, who has gotten more targets as the season went on. Scotty Miller, who seemed to be a favorite target in this game in particular. JL, do any of these other options excite you from a fantasy perspective, or is it just thumbs up for Mike Evans and Gronk?
Yeah, it's a thumbs up for Mike Evans and Gronk. I think that they most likely draft someone or sign someone else. I think that's the most likely scenario. I'm not going to assume that these guys who are filling in this season are going to command a bigger role next season. I think that based on their talent, that's sort of where they are. They're that sort of fill in that wide receiver 3/4. So I think it would be a benefit if they don't bring anyone in. Huge bump to Mike Evans. Although I don't even know if it's that good for Mike Evans. Like, is it great for Mike Evans if he's the only option next to Gronk in this offense?
I think so. I think Mike
today
Evans
was hyper targeted. 16 targets, 119 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, I think it's probably a beneficial thing.
I think he's the kind of player that can handle that attention, right? He's got the big body. He's the big play threat. I think he can handle extra attention from the defenses. So I'll give a thumbs up to Mike Evans on that one. But Jail, you brought up a great point, especially drafting at the back end of this first round right here. The Bucs are in a great position to draft one of these super talented wide receivers. This is a deep wide receiver class. I know people are already excited about the 2022 wide receivers. The class as a whole has gotten some flack from the fantasy community because it's down at quarterback and running back, but the wide receiver position looks to be as good as it has been in recent years. And there's some names further down the list, like a Sky Moore, that's probably going to be available at the back end of the first, into the second round, that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could draft and start building around one of these rookie wide receivers as well. So I'm with you, Jail. They probably bring in someone else, but it's more thumbs up for Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski than anything else for me. Now, Josh, do you think Chris Godwin, not knowing where he's going to end up next year, how are you viewing him in a dynasty format? I know going into this past season, he was widely considered a wide receiver 1 in dynasty. He was a top 12 wide receiver. Do you still view him in that context, or is it changing for you?
Yeah, in Dynasty, he's right on that borderline top 12 wide receivers. If we just took it back real fast to the trade charts, it looks like Chris Godwin would fall into this tier, the third tier of wide receivers. You know, you got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, then you have Tyreek Hill to Stephon Diggs kind of deal, and then you have the DJ Moores, Terry McLaurin's, Chris Godwins, and T. Higgins kind of guys. And I think that's right where he belongs in a Dynasty league. I think I think the good conversation is Chris Godwin or T. Higgins. I'm almost 100% sure that both of you guys are taking T. Higgins over Chris Godwin. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm taking T. Higgins over Chris Godwin.
For me, I think I lean Chris Godwin, actually. But Chris Godwin proved it even without Tom Brady. When he was with Jameis Winston that one season, Chris Godwin, I believe, was the number 1 wide receiver until he got hurt at the very end of the season. And he was definitely a top 5 wide receiver, I think, by the end of it. So Chris Godwin has proved a ton to me so far. I think he's uber talented. The ACL injury is the only thing that really lowers him. If he didn't have that injury, I think he bumps up a tier in my opinion.
So I know we're approaching the end here, guys, but I wanted to do one quick question, a player comparison. So Josh, in a dynasty format, who would you prefer, Chris Godwin or Calvin Ridley?
Chris Godwin, because of the uncertainty. I would have to draft right now. If I was doing a dynasty startup, I would draft Chris Godwin over Calvin Ridley.
Jail, what about you?
Yeah, Godwin over Ridley.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I've got them separated by 2 spots right now. They're super close, but I've got Chris Godwin. The 2 names I have around him in Dynasty are Deontay Johnson and Jerry Jeudy. Deontay Johnson right ahead, Jerry Jeudy right below. Where would you guys rank Chris Godwin in relation to those 2 players? Would you be taking him before in a dynasty format or after Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy?
Deontay Johnson's the tougher one. There's no doubt in my mind I would take Chris Godwin ahead of Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, with Josh.
Deontay Johnson's a really tough question, and I think when it came down to it, my rankings, they would be back to back. Deontay Johnson, he's thrived, but it's been with Ben Roethlisberger, who is great at throwing an accurate short pass, where Deontay Johnson thrives. I think I lean Chris Godwin there.
I lean Deontay Johnson, but it is very close. They're back to back for me as well.
Yep. And the reason I brought that up is those 3 are back to back to back in my rankings. It goes Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, Jerry Jeudy, back to back to back, 13, 14, 15.
Is Mike Evans ahead of those guys for you, Simon?
Oh, yeah. Mike Evans is, let's see. Number 1. Actually, no. Mike Evans in Dynasty, you may be surprised by this, but I have right below Jerry Jeudy at 17, and then Calvin Ridley one spot below there. Yeah, I love Mike Evans, but these guys are, I imagine they have similar fantasy output.
These guys, well, how did they keep getting older? Going into next season, I will say I will definitely have Mike Evans ranked above Chris Godwin, but in a dynasty league, I would draft Chris Godwin ahead of Mike Evans.
Yeah, 3 years age difference.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The tiebreaker for me is I imagine their fantasy output will likely be similar next year. And if that's the case, then I'll use age as the tiebreaker, but I will not use age to put someone ahead of someone that I think is going to outperform them for the next couple of years, right? Maria in here saying, I love the idea that Jay has a Joe Mixon alarm. He absolutely does. It is 100% his superpower.
Yep. Not very useful, but.
And it's got unlimited signal. He could go deep into space and he would still have that alarm go off. It's
water pressure,
it's
atmosphere,
incredible.
nothing stops it.
Nothing stops it. Guys, we are approaching the end here. I know we want to go catch the end of this Bills-Chiefs game, and it's a pretty close one. We're getting another close game right here, so we'll see. Fingers crossed for another walk-off field goal, right? Let's end it.
31-28.
4 walk-off field goals in this game. That would be so much fun. Anything else before we jump off, guys? Any last words, any final statements that you want to say to close off this divisional round?
I love you guys.
Kicking makes fantasy fun.
Kicking makes fantasy fun, 100%. Guys, that is going to be it for us this Sunday evening.
Wait, no. Don't end on that. Kicking does not make fantasy fun. Stop. No. Get kickers out of here.
JL said that for Linda and Linda alone. He's going to clip that and send it to her and be like, look, I said kicking makes fantasy fun.
It clicked a little bit too late for me. I was like, wait a second. No.
Guys, if you have not done so already, make sure you are subscribed to FanDuel on YouTube. And if you're watching this on Twitch, hit that follow button. Then go check out FanDuel on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. They're at FanDuel on all of those platforms. They have a whole team of incredible content creators helping you guys win some money and win your leagues. I know you got 3 super, super handsome, charming, kind guys right here. But there's others on the FanDuel platform. 2 out of the 3 of us are very handsome. But I won't say which one. 3. I'm in agreement, JL. There's someone who's not, but we will not dive into that. Next week, we tell you who's ugly. Guys, that is going to be it for us. That's going to be it for us this week. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night, and we will see you next week. Until then, adios, everyone.
You need a Josh Sunday night sing out song.